Hi, everybody. So on the other session, we heard about gender-targeted policy measures. But what about gender equality and where does it start? Does it start also at home? I'm sure you've all seen or heard about the book, which is Good Guys, How Men Can Be Better Allies for Women in the Workplace. We want to highlight how gender equality at work has to start with men becoming equal partners. To discuss this, I want to just call upon Uma Reddy, who's the MD of High-Tech Magnetics and Electronics Private Limited. She's a first-generation technocrat entrepreneur who has won a national award for women's entrepreneurs in 2001. She's on several policy-making bodies for both state and central government, also a member of the Prime Minister's Council for Micro and Small and Medium Enterprises. Over to you, Uma. I want to remind our participants to put their question and answers in the box, and we'll get them to the panelists at the end. Uma?
Thank you, Anish, for this. And thank you, Talentnomics, to give me this role of something which is very different from my normal. I normally come in as a speaker. I talk about entrepreneurship development in the good old days when I started my business. That was largely in the 80s and the 90s. And the way it kind of evolved. And at that time, I don't think I knew the spelling of the word entrepreneur, not the spelling of the word gender, nor the spelling of the word equality. Okay, so I think it's something that we grew up with and we learned and it evolved. And it's so nice to, play this role of being able to, moderate and listen to two very unique personalities on this session, partnering of equals. And that is going to shape a better world. So basically, when we talk about equal partners and especially in relationship, I don't know who's going to really be the judge as to who's equal and not equal and who's above and less. But at the end of the day, it has to work. And I think, it has to work for adding value to each other's. And that's exactly how my discussion a few weeks ago with Saurabh and Neelam went, and I love the way they add value to each other. And so we are here at this session. I'll quickly introduce Neelam and Saurabh to each one of you, and we'll get them talking and sharing the experience and a lot of learning for all of us. So they're going to be our inspirational role models for today's session. And Neelam is basically an innovation specialist with UNICEF India. And she's, prior to that, been consulted with the World Bank. She's played multiple roles in the Indian state governments on education technology and also in digital innovations for promoting entrepreneurship and life skills among young people. She's also been an entrepreneur herself. She's founded a social enterprise delivering 21st century life skills to children. And this has happened through experiential learning, and you'll hear a lot more about it when she talks. Neelam herself has been in the global leadership cadre at Tech Mahindra, leading large-scale IT services operations. So she's had that experience. And she has been a Vital Voices Global Lead Fellow, a social entrepreneurship fellow at SE Forum in Sweden. And there's something which you must know, that she has also been an education entrepreneurship fellow at the Harvard University. And I will tell you why. Okay, Neelam identifies as a person of disability and as an advocate for inclusive workplaces for the disabled. Now, I will talk to you about Saurabh, and then you can connect the dots. Saurabh is the creator of Dabang Girl, and you know of the comic book series. And Dabang Girl is a superhero for social enterprise and social impact that focuses on breaking gender barriers, okay, and gender stereotypes. Dabang Girl inspires girls to find their hero within and boys to perceive the superhero in girls around them, and that's what Saurabh focuses on. Saurabh is basically a life skills educator and has been designing educational content for children to build an inclusive and equal world for all. So Saurabh has also worked in public policy with governments across India, Vietnam, Saudi, and Laos. And he has represented and led organizations such as the World Bank and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Saurabh has also been a public policy graduate from Harvard University. So you know where they met. and earlier, but they would talk about it. And he's also been a management graduate from IIT Kharagpur and has been a Gather Fellow at Seeds of Peace and Education Entrepreneurship Fellow at the Harvard University. So welcome to both Neelam and Saurabh. You know, I love the way y'all have worked together, y'all built your careers, and you'll build your home. And, I'm not going to take too much time on more add-ons. I will get to questions and I'll let the lady go first, Saurabh. So this question is for Neelam. You and your husband are very, very successful couple. I mean, that's what I've, during my conversation with you, you're also an ideal couple. At the same time, you're a very unconventional couple, something which you rarely come across, somebody who's not a stereotype. And that's what both of you have been. And so you've been following your own aspirations and Saurabh has been following his own aspirations and dreams. Can you share with us your journey, Neelam, as to how you made this happen and how difficult or easy it was for you to do it? And how have both of you been supporting each other? Over to you.
Thanks, Suma, and thanks for the lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here and share our journeys today. So how did it happen? And I would like to take you back to where it started for me. As you introduced me, I identify as a person of disability, and when you're growing up as a person of disability, especially in India, around the time when I grew up in the 80s, there is a lot of exclusion that we face in all spheres in life. And as a young adult, I mean, facing that exclusion also when you are thinking about yourself in a romantic a kind of a way, you find yourself falling short, and that is where, I mean, I had these insecurities and had kind of taken a stand that I would not have a life partner, or I would spend my life by myself, and I was strong enough to handle that notion. And when I met Saurabh, when I got to know him, it was after that I realized that he saw me more because of my disability. He saw the power of my disability, and he communicated that to me. And that shifted for me, that shifted things for me. I went from being, I need to be alone because that is the way I would maximize my potential, to, hey, what's this? Here is a person who's telling me stronger because of my disability, not instead of your disability, not in spite of your disability, but because of your disability, you're stronger. These dimensions are beautiful, get added to you because of your disability. And that to me shifted my conversation with myself. And that is how, we got married, and that came about for me. I thought it was important to also reflect on that as we talk about, because that is really the genesis of this all. And the way we support each other, I think it's been really, if I look back on, so we've been married now, we've been married now 10 years. If I look back on the way, where I had started, I am a very static, I love to focus. I love to stay. I'm a person who stays, who engages, who, goes deep within. And when I got married, before I got married, I was in Australia leading sales for my organization. And I came back to get married. And then after a year or more of burnout, I was burnt out. Corporate sector burns you out. I took a break. And I took a break, and then I was looking more for, again, corporate opportunities. And Saurabh is the kind of person who, who wants to do everything. He's so full of, I'm not going to say life, but so full of opportunities. if there were 10 Saurabhs, they would be doing hundreds of things, you know. I mean, he himself, one Saurabh, is doing so many things. So he pushed me, he persuaded me to look beyond what was my immediate vision, beyond what was my education, what was my experience. You know, hey, you know, have you heard about the University of Peace? Can you do you want to see if you want to engage with what they do there, and so on. And that put me on a completely different path, and I have never looked back. So the diversification in my career, you see, comes from sort of kind of opening my eyes to, you know, can we look at what's beyond what you can see right now? Can we expand your horizons? And I've never looked back. It's been just everywhere, and so I think that's valuable for me. That's been valuable.
A lot of encouragement coming in from Saurabh to you to look at an opportunity. And yeah, I'll continue with that part of it, because there are many stories where you know, it's very difficult to get that encouragement. But my question to you, Saurabh, was in connection with this. You've known Neelam, as she mentioned, before marriage. You've dated her. You know, she got the strength from, you know, it's because of her disability that, you know, you found that in her. And you also married her. And so how was it before marriage, your perspective? How was it after marriage? What would be your key challenge that you would have faced, and, you know, you overcome it? And if there was any such kind of a challenge, and what was the most unexpected positive thing that worked out for you?
Thank you so much, Uma, and thank you for having us here, and thank you, Neelam, for the kind words. It's not daily that you listen to your partner talking or sharing in, you know, reflecting in such a manner. But we are totally different personalities. While she's a go-getter, that's what I think, and I'm a more introvert in that sense. And I think that's where opposites also attract. I mean, she's one of the most confident persons I know. From the day, I think we met at IIT, from the first day when we met, and then it took her a couple of years to say yes to me. And then we dated for another couple of years before we got married. And life has changed. Life has changed. Just to give you an example, she's an adventure sport enthusiast. She does scuba diving, jumping off, I mean, parachutes, it's so many things, zip lining, and she has made me do. I mean, I would, as an individual, as a personality, probably I will not do, but Neelam is like I said, one of the most lively persons one could meet, and it's such an honor to be called her partner in this journey. And just to add to what Neelam shared, I think we are both very ambitious when it comes to our career. And it's important. It has been an important part of our lives to how to find the right balance, because a lot of time it takes you to different places. It takes you to do different things. And when there are times when Neelam has moved cities and countries because I couldn't move, and there are times when I have moved cities when she couldn't move and she had a good role and opportunity. Like she mentioned, she moved from Australia to Delhi after we got married. Then she moved to Jhunjhunu. I was about to move to Jhunjhunu, but we got admitted into Harvard, so we went to US. And we've done 2 masters together, started our NGO together. It has been a journey with ups and downs in terms of staying together. But what an exciting part it has been. Just something very basic, because you know your partner understands you and trusts you. What we did very early after our marriage is ensuring that we take out time for each other to discuss where we are and where we want to be in careers, and what do we want to do, irrespective of any obstacles. If there were no limitations, what would the other person want to do? And then work towards it in terms of how can we make that possible. And I think that has really worked for us so far. touch wood. And yeah, it's very, we can't be more grateful to the whole ecosystem coming together. And it's, yeah, thank you.
There's no real formula in it, but as I hear from both of you, you'll have been staying together and you've been staying apart, right? And Neelam, in a marriage especially, right, you tend to, when you're staying together, you tend to get dependent on one side, and on another side, sometimes you get on each other's nerves. I mean, that's general, you want your spaces. And when you're apart, like, then at that point of time, you need that person next to you at a moment to, to be supportive in whichever way. So how did you deal with it, Neelam? How did you deal with both these kinds of extreme situations? Because you'll be apart for a year, 2 years sometimes, and, together sometimes. So, which is a very unique kind of a relationship.
Absolutely. And those were hard times as well. Staying apart was hard. A year together, then a couple of years apart, then again together. When I was in Junjunu, in fact, Saurabh was in the US. We were on different time zones. It was night and day. And I was not, and it was not, my life had completely changed. And Saurabh's life had also completely changed. We had gone from knowing the corporate life to his being an academic life in the top university, and the hardships that he would face. Then I had gone to almost rural India, and the kind of hardships that were there were very different. So we were navigating new avenues in life without support, as in without each other being there. But I think we always made time for the other person, in terms of, if I would feel a lot of times, because it was new for me. I would have my back against the wall in a number of situations while I was working in the development sector, having had no experience of it. I sort of always made time for me. So we were in different time zones, and I knew he would make time. So in case he didn't have time, or at times when he was very busy, I couldn't get him on the call, or I knew that he was trying his best to become available to me. So just knowing that the other person is trying their best, and that constant trust. So trust is not even an issue. It's a foundation. It's a given. So you don't even talk about trust. You say, okay, the person is not on call because they are busy. So you know that already. And then another mantra that kind of helped along the way was, when you're apart, you kind of try to build your own ecosystem as well. So I don't go to Saurabh with every single thing when we are apart. I find friends whom I can talk to about some other things, about fun. I can have fun without Saurabh. I can have deep conversations with other individuals. I don't need to have them only with my partner. So to find other avenues of doing things, of companionship, not the one which you enjoy with your spouse, but the other things on which a lot of couples, what happens is, we become so interdependent, so interwoven, that one finds it difficult to exist without the other. I think the time apart helped us do that as well. So it was helpful as well. And time together, yes, sometimes we get on each other's nerves, like what you said, and but I think what's enjoyable is also knowing. So Saurabh finds a lot of solace in Dabangal and working on, the stories, and comes to me for review, and we have these nice brainstorming sessions. And at the same time, I need to go to the gym. I need to talk about my fitness with other people, etc. I have space for that. So we know where we want to spend our individual time on, and we know where we come back together. So that is, again, a good strategy.
And that's nice, because I think you'll have, as you said, the trust on each, about each other at the same time, and also the space when you're apart, and the fact that technology, and I think this was something which we discussed, technology helps to keep a relationship going, what with, the present digital media, the virtual calls, all that helps. But there is another ecosystem just apart from both of you, right? Saurabh, that you have your parents, you have your, family who would not understand this relationship. I mean, I per se, would, there is a tendency to say, what is this? I mean, you're here together for a year, and then you're apart for 2 years, and then you'll come back for 6 months, and then, so what kind? So did you have any of those kind of pressures from family? And how did you then convince them, or, how did it all work out?
Yeah, I think, so I think I come from a middle-class family in Uttar Pradesh, and I think role of parents is very important, because that's where you draw your initial inspirations from till you get an understanding of the world. And I remember one fine day I was sitting with my mother, and we didn't have money to even afford a car, but she said, I want to learn driving. And she took me and we went to a driving school where she enrolled as a student, and then she learned driving, and after a few years we bought a car. But she has sort of been an inspiration as well. And when you grow up seeing stronger women role models around you, I think that helps shape up a lot of your thought process. And even though they are, both my parents are very very progressive, when I told them about Neelam and disability, they took their time to absorb. It takes a bit of time, but then they were like, if you have thought this through, then we are with you. And I said yes. And and after that, you are right, like it's been they ask a lot of questions, right? They are worried whether because the normal expectation is after marriage you are staying together, you are having kids, and you are having a normal, I mean, I would not say normal, but I would say a traditional expected sort of a lifestyle. But now they are coming to terms with it, because they just see us happy. And I think that's what is you, because you need to constantly assure them, you need to have those conversations with parents as well on why you are doing certain things the way you are. It's very important. And it's and we have had our moments. I remember when I went to speak to Neelam's family, it was June, and I have not spent a lot of time in Mumbai. So I was wearing a suit, a woolen suit, and in Mumbai, and I was taking an auto and went to her home, and they were laughing that who wears a woolen suit in the month of June in Mumbai. But it has been trying our level best, and I think Neelam has done so much in order to assure my family, my parents, and I to the best to have those conversations with her family as well. Because I think apart from listening to their own sons and daughters, parents also, they should they get a more comfort when they speak to the partner as well. So I think that has been very interesting, and I it's yeah, they love Neelam more than they love me now. So I think you can understand where I'm coming from.
So one is to find, your own thoughts echoed back with your partner, but then, it's also very nice when parents also endorse the same views and the broad-mindedness with which they take it. And is that the same for you, Neelam? I'm sure, even your parents would have had a lot of concern, the fact that you're getting married and then you travel out. So what happens to you? There's always a little bit more concern for girls and as girls' parents. I would say than much more than for boys. I mean, that's the typical situation. So what were your parents' thoughts, and how did they accept and didn't try to change your thought process?
I think for me, because of the whole aspect of not having the mindset of getting married earlier and then wanting to get married later when I met Saurabh, I think for my family, they were happy. They were happy with that itself, that okay, she's changed her mind. There was a little it helps if you meet your partner in a management school, you know. The career paths are kind of assured, you know. You're like, okay, she's not married, marrying someone who's, so who's not going anywhere. Yeah, so yeah, management schools are a good place. I mean, I am feeding into the stereotype, but they are a good place to look for a partner. So yeah, so not much there, but they have been constantly thinking about and worried about the unconventionalness of what we've been doing. When we started our organization and we didn't have any money, and they were like, where are you going? What's happening with you? You know, are you sure you want to do this? Where is the revenue going to come from? You know, what are your plans? And they would ask us these questions. And while we were also dealing with these questions ourselves, there's a lot of pressure when your family is also asking these questions. But I think me and Saurabh, we always faced each other, and we kind of, you know, for us, it was an adventure. So we were taking an adventure together, and we knew that we would come out on the other side. We just needed to go through this adventure, and we were moving forward. As long as we knew that we were moving forward as people in our careers or as personalities or in our relationship, I think that was fine. So we were always looking towards each other while there was pressure from family. And we dealt with the pressure from family with time. They learned, they didn't see where we are now. They see what we are doing now. They're tired of asking the same questions, I think. So, but yeah, if I had to use one word to describe what me and Saurabh have, it is growth. And growth is the fundamental piece of this relationship for me.
And then you're talking about individual growth also, and not
yes,
the career growth.
It's yes, also, individual growth.
The parents take pride in seeing their children grow as individuals, and
yes,
that's something which is very nice. So, okay, so we've talked about the home part of it. So I know Saurabh is also the creator of the Dabangg Girl comic, and you also support with the content, and you build the content for it. So how does that the superhero gender play a role, and how do you look at it in the perspective of not just your relationship with Neelam, but also in society at large? I have this question to Saurabh.
Yeah, it has been a journey of unlearning and learning, because how we learn or interpret gender, even in our books, in our society, and it is changing, but there is still a lot that needs to be done. And even for us, I think all of us have those biases or stereotypes, not just because we have not been able to observe ourselves sometimes. And with Dabangg Girl, it has been same. Dabangg means fearless, so fearless girl. If I can take you through a bit of the journey, when Neelam and I returned from US, we were very sure we wanted to work with children in India. And we used to conduct these workshops in semi-urban areas in Uttar Pradesh, where we had these two fictional characters, Tara and Aman, and they used to write letters to the children in terms of each week a new letter used to come. So one week Tara wrote, I want to be an astronaut. And the children in the classroom started discussing. Girls were like, yes, even I want to be an astronaut. But some boys in the class said, they can't even ride a bicycle properly. How will they become an astronaut? And it was, while we know it exists in the society, but for very young kids to even have those kind of stereotypes being formed was very, very alarming, and they are getting it from their ecosystem, right? People around them. And then we discussed what we should do. Neelam also pointed out that a lot of times in the classroom, the boys get very excited when we talk about superheroes, because even in the normal games and other things, they bring in Spider-Man, Chota Bheem, Shaktiman. But girls used to become quiet because girls were not getting exposed to girl superheroes. So it was somewhere there was a gap. We thought what we should do. And I think with our adventurous personal journey, we thought this is the right time to launch and start a girl superhero. And we asked the kids what would be the name of their superhero. And Dabangg is a famous movie which reinforces some of the stereotypes. But when you make it Dabangg Girl, it breaks a lot of stereotypes. And they said she will be Dabangg, and that's how Dabangg Girl started. And it has been a fantastic journey we have now 12 comic books which have been created, each one with an agenda of breaking stereotypes. And what's even more endearing is that now the readers are writing their own story. One of our reader has written a story on 7 girl superheroes, and she has written a 10-chapter book on it. We worked with one of our readers to create a superhero with dyslexia. And it's just amazing to see how much, if there is imagination and creativity that can be provided to the children and what they can do. And Neelam and I still debate a lot on those aspects, right? Because for us also, like I said, it's unlearning some of the things that sometimes I think for granted that this is not a stereotype. Then Neelam points out, no, this is a stereotype, and why. So it's while we are creating more stories, comic books and videos now, but it's also a great learning experience for us in a personal journey.
So kind of Neelam has also contributed to this. She herself has been an innovation specialist. She's worked with children.
She is the real life Dabangg Girl.
And Neelam, so was there, so you've been also working with children in your own way. And so how do you draw parallels? Because I don't see any questions on the chat box as of now. So I'm presuming, we just continue with the discussion until I get something. It is open to questions.
So Swati, we can see ourselves right now.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Will this still be there?
Anish, you're there on the call.
You can see this.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Anish. So I think we'll just continue with the conversation unless I see any questions on the chat box. So Neelam, so I really would like to understand how you draw inspiration and also kind of look at a cross-fertilization of ideas in the way Saurabh and you work with children. You're muted.
So my journey with children has also been very special, my personal journey. I very quickly, just referring to that, again, growing up as a child with disability, children are mean to each other. We all see that when we are young. But when I went back to school as an adult to work with children, I saw the shift in power. Children now were like, Didi, can we be like you when we grow up? And, that was something I was taken aback at that time. And then I realized that there's a shift in power that happens. And now it's easier to be with kids. They're not mean anymore to adults. So that's been my personal shift there. And that actually gives me the inspiration to work with them. We've worked in slum areas. We've worked with low private affordable schools and really seen the disenfranchisement that exists there with respect to digital or with respect to good quality content or with respect to good quality educators. And, the constant endeavor through whatever I do as my work at UNICEF or in my personal life is to help bridge that gap. How can children who have the least opportunities find a level playing field? And that's right now, in fact, with COVID, we saw that, we know that children who attended the public schools, etc., who had were deprived a lot because there was no digital platforms, there was no digital content that was readily available. Nobody had seen this coming, right? We hadn't planned for this. So when COVID happened, the assumption is that in a family, if there is a smartphone and there is content that is streaming, all children in the family will get access to that content. But it is not true. if there is a girl and a boy in a household and there is a phone with the father would hand the phone to the boy to learn something. But the chances of that girl getting that access to that phone for the same amount of time is very less. It's not that they have equal opportunity within the household. So while you might see that everybody is helping out with the chores during COVID, the same does not exist for the digital access, and digital access then deprives girls of many, many, many opportunities. And I think with Dabang Girl or through my work with my organization, we're trying to address that digital divide or that gap access, or the common perception that, oh, there is a phone, now the girls have access, but no, they don't.
Yeah. So there is some amount of inequality there also, right? And there's also very interesting question. There are quite a few that has come up on the chat box. And this is for you, Saurabh. So you kind of created a superhero among the girls. So there's a question from one, I haven't got the name here, but saying that, is there a way in which you can make the boys less dabang? Or change the attitude of the boys? I mean, are you only dealing with the girls? Don't you have to deal with the boys also?
Thank you so much. And I want to thank to the listener who has asked this question, or the viewer who has asked this question, because
I thought it was important.
Very, very important. And that's what we are working on. So Dabang, it's very important to not just empower girls, but also to sensitize boys to be comfortable and to see superheroes in girls around them, because there is a lot happening in the ecosystem. And that's where the stories are very carefully designed in such a way so that the sensitivity of the boys, or to make boys more sensitive, and I think the question was, less dabang, is also taken care of. And that is very important. I mean, for example, we are currently working on a story on menstruation. Right. And if you see the current content, how stories are written to communicate the information, it is from a girl's perspective. But it's not just a girl's subject. Boys need to be equally educated so that they can be an equal partner in terms of supporting and creating a supportive ecosystem for everyone. Absolutely. And that's the whole idea on two folds. Yes, it's
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it has to be both ways. There's actually a question from Rashik Katuria, and she says it's just that it's been ideal for both of you, that you're being able to balance both your own lives together and your careers, right? And you kind of found the right person. I mean, they say, in fact, she has to tell Neelam that you found the right kind of a person. So what is it that actually, made that formula click for both of you, is her question. Because there is, she says, it's obvious that you married the right guy, someone who supported you and allows you to be your best, which is not always easy to find. Or did both of you work on it to make it happen? So to put it simple.
I think part of the observation is right, and the second part is also true. So while I did marry, I think, the right person in terms of the person who sees my strength because of who I am, and there is constant work to keep it happening. So like Saurabh referred to this earlier when he was responding to you, Uma, is, where we are at life as people, how are we evolving, to keep talking to each other, to find that time to talk to each other. Hey, this is where I am right now. Here is what I'm thinking about for the next, as an aspiration or as a goal. That requires constant work. It is not easy to stop and to say, hey, are you okay? Are you, where are we going with this? To check in with the other person to see whether are they on the right path of where they wanted to go, and one person is not dragging the other person along. So I think that is constant work. And if you don't do that, it's very easy to fall out. It's very easy for life to take over, for the other person to feel dragged by the other person. And nobody deserves to be dragged through life, right? I mean, we need to bring ourselves.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm sure Yeah, we just have a minute left before we wrap up. But yes, Saurabh, if you want to quickly say that, add to this. At the same time, if you can, yeah, go ahead.
Just one small thing, because I think, and my apologies to the one asking the questions, because the word used was, I allowed Neelam, and that's a language we teach kids not to use, because it's a partnership of equals. There is no one allowing everyone. The idea is for collaborating in terms of how do we grow together. That's what Neelam, I think, already said.
Uma, we have one very interesting question that has just
the last question, and I'm going to ask that if you don't mind, and I'll wrap it with that last question. Okay.
Do you want me to? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, just a minute, and I'll have both of them answer that. Many women are working, are getting married a little late because of their economic independence, which was not so in the earlier days, right? And so, and it's very difficult to find partners who respect that part of their careers. So what is the advice that you would have for them? Quickly, both of you. I want response from both of you on that.
I can go first because I've thought about it. I think marriage is not a milestone to engage with after you've reached a certain thing in your career. Marriage, if it helps you grow, if it is to the right person, it helps you grow. So no matter at what point you make that decision, you just have to make sure that you're engaging with the right person, because it has to help you move forward. So one, I would say that, it's not that you achieve your financial independence first and then go get married and hence find a delay, but it doesn't matter where it happens in your life if it's the right person.
Thank you. Thank you. And Saurabh, do you have to say anything to that?
Just one thing, that we should have conversations with open mind with our partner. And I think that goes a long way.
I think thank you so much, Neelam and Saurabh. I know we've run out of time. Anish was waiting patiently. And I completely agree with whatever you all have said. I think it's something that we all need to work on. I personally run a business for past 37 years. I've been in business. And I belong to that era where it was more traditional. You hardly had women working, leave alone taking up entrepreneurship. So you get the family involved and understand. So I think it's a process of building relationships, understanding one another, make your own careers at the same time, also make sure your dreams come true. So on that note, thank you very much, Neelam and Saurabh, for sharing your thoughts. And thank you, Anish, for moderating this session. And thank you, Talentnomics, for this. Thank you.
Well, Uma, thanks. Well, you did all the moderation. I was just the bouncer on the session. and thank you. It was a very nice session. And I really hope that, going forward, a lot of people have heard Uma and Saurabh speak and hope to build equal marriages like they have. It's been an interesting one. Thank you very much, Uma. Thank you, Neelam, and thank you, Saurabh.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to all the listeners. Thank you. Bye.